Welcome back to Beyond the Headline, everyone. I'm so thrilled that you're here because I'm joined by the co-founder and CEO of Kano, Alex Klein. Alex, I'm delighted you're here. Thank you.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
I want to start out with a quote you shared that really resonated with me about your mission at Kano. You said that computing is our birthright. If you live in the 21st century, your reality is filtered through the lens of a sapphire screen. Why not take control of it? Before Kano, it was very difficult to take control of it. Can you introduce us into your work to that light?
Yeah, sure. That's a kind of a big, up in the clouds vision, the notion that computing should be as simple to create as it is to consume, and that we should all be able to see, understand, and enjoy what goes on beneath the surface. But it actually all started with a challenge from my 6-year-old cousin Micah. We were playing around with this little circuit board, this brain called the Raspberry Pi, which at the time, hackers, professionals, hobbyists, they'd sent this brain, this board into space, under the ocean. They made servers, they made robots. But Micah, my little cousin, 6 years old, he wanted to do something a lot more simple. He said he wanted to build his own computer, but that it had to be as simple and fun as Lego, so no one teaches him. And that challenge sort of led to the creation of the first kit, the Kano computer kit. It's a $99 kit. Put the pieces together, build a computer, build a speaker, you make games, you make music. And again, the whole design emphasis was no one teaches me. It should be as simple and fun as a game. And I think often when we go to teach computer science or coding, it feels very top-down, very pre-vocational, very instructional. What we wanted to create was an organic, bottom-up system for making and playing with technology. It would be as addictive as an Angry Birds, as creative and generative as a palette of paints. But it's as simple and humane as the world of iDevices in which we're immersed every day. So we don't think there needs to be a tension between open and simple. We want to bring those two together, and we want to do it when the next generation is still young, so they grow up thinking of computing as something you do rather than just use.
And you have the screen kits right behind you.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago, actually, we announced a brand new kit. It's called the Screen Kit. It's an HD display that you build yourself, a lot like Lego. It completes the experience of the Kano computer kit. It's $129. We teach you how pixels work, liquid crystals, alpha, gamma. You plug buttons, you plug a wafer cable, you add Velcro, you put the pieces of the case together. It's all incredibly simple, guided by a storybook. Any age can do it. And now we've got a complete DIY PC. So I think the big challenge is, okay, once a kid's built a computer, what's he or she going to do next? And that's what we're planning for next year.
You guys have a lot of video, and a lot of your fans record videos of their kids using it, and it's really remarkable. They open it, they open the book, and they do it by themselves.
Yeah. I think that's important. This is the first generation for whom using a screen comes as easily as breathing. They don't need to be told that computing is cool, and they don't need a teacher or a parent leaning over their shoulder, judging them, evaluating them in the same way perhaps our generation experienced when we were younger. The most incredible aspects of this generation are just coming to light. We traveled around the world to make Kano. We visited dozens of countries, met with artists, educators, and students. There were 16-year-old boys in Sierra Leone, pulling together pieces of trash and making radio stations and batteries. Girls in Kosovo using cheap DIY PC units to automate the position of solar panels to capture the light and turn it into energy. We're in an incredible time in history where these kids might outpace us while they're still kids. We just need to get out of their way. We don't need to teach them from the top down. We need to give them a chemistry set, an idea lab, a set of interchangeable pieces, stories, and ideas that let them not just, use the stuff that they take for granted, Minecraft, iTunes, all the wonderful world of apps and services, but rather let them kind of build it again from the bottom up.
That's something that really stood out to me in a previous talk you were giving, that all of us, whether we're an adult, whether a child, boy, girl, we all want to look inside. We want to figure out how things work. But right now, it's like you said, it's a little bit restricted still. I'm going to teach you how to do it. You can't just open yourself.
Yeah, that's the big design challenge, right? I think everyone in the world who is experiencing this huge technological revolution, we feel the optimism. We feel the potential, but we also feel a bit of fear, right? There are 8.2 billion connected devices in the world. They are slapped to our thighs. They're exponentially more powerful than the mainframe that took Apollo to the moon. And yet, despite all this power, a tiny fraction of us, 1% of 1%, 50 million people in the world can talk to these devices. And it's presented, become an engineer, become a coder, go work for Google one day, you'll be a millionaire. But this message isn't mainstream. And the content, the storytelling that brings us inside the computer's brain is never quite simple enough. So at Kano, we let you make music with code. You can make your favorite Kanye West hook with a piece of code. We let you make games, classic games like Pong and Snake. We do it through simple steps and stories. The experience feels organic and human. And that's what Q-Tip from a Tribe Called Quest told us when he first opened the computer kit. He said, "Wow, you guys are humanizing computing," and it's interesting for something that is so integral to the human experience today. Computing does feel distant. It feels abstract. These, we mentioned these sealed sapphire screens, these perfect Beziers, these buttons that have one purpose, these laptops that only have one port. That's not what computing is about. Computing is about invention. It's about powering up your mind and giving you new ways of looking at the world and expressing yourself. And that's what Kano is about. It's about taking all of these big ideas and boiling them down to simple, playful, physical computing experiences that anyone can make.
And another great thing that you guys do that I think is so integral to your work is connecting the kids who are using it. So you have Kano Academy, you have Kano World. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, sure. So, Kano World is this safe online hub, essentially, where anyone on Kano can share their code, look at others' creations, fork it, and learn from what others have made. So on Kano World today, we already have over 9 million lines of code shared, 25,000 creations. We have kids who rise and fall on the leaderboard, competing on how cool their coded creations can be. They earn experience points. They level up. They unlock badges. It's almost like a kid's GitHub. Wired called it, but it feels like a carnival of coded creativity. As for the Academy, the Academy is actually our not-for-profit efforts to empower makers worldwide, young makers who might not otherwise have the tools. So, through the Academy, we donate 1% of our kits sold, 1% of employee time, and 1% of equity to really fostering this generation of bottom-up creators who have been excluded either because of economics or circumstance or geography. So, for instance, we worked with Sarah Brown and their world to get about 200 kits into the hands of refugees from the Syrian crisis. We're building an innovation lab in Sierra Leone, and we're distributing kits all around the world from South Africa to Southeast Asia. So the goal here is just to give a simple, affordable set of tools to a curious young mind, and then again, with Kano World, connect them to a community of other young people who are interested in making and playing, who want to be the inventors of tomorrow, not just the users.
And I think it's really important that you share that because inventor can take on a lot of definitions there. Like you said before, I don't need to learn how to code so I can go work at Google. I can learn how to code for a creative purpose, or I can just learn so if something happens, I know how to fix it. Why do you think we're still missing that in society when we talk about coding?
It's a great question, and maybe I would sort of turn it back to a story, which is that the modern PC, the world through which we experience one another, the I world, one might call it. It wasn't inevitable. It seems inevitable now. In the early 1980s, in Mountain View, California, a small group of geeks assembled, and they were playing with these boards, these circuit boards that had just, recently in the years prior, gone up in terms of performance per price point. There had been a quantum leap, and these hackers, these geeks, these hobbyists, they were trying to figure out what to do with this. Some of them made, little hacker boxes that let them hack into the phone network. Others made sort of little game consoles that they could play on the TV screen at home. Two of those geeks, named Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak at the Homebrew Computer Club, they took all the pieces, they put it in a box, they added a screwdriver, a nice instruction manual, and they started selling it, the Apple I, right? And that first computer, which the end user had to assemble themselves, that was made to be hacked, made to be remixed, that was sort of the Steve Wozniak machine. Now, as the company grew and as more and more people became introduced to what computing can do for you as a user, necessarily computing started to get more homogenous. cut down the number of ports, only compatible with its own things, seal up the system for the sake of simplicity. That was the idea. Make it so sealed, so one size fits all, that anyone could just pick it up and use it. And that was the right thing to do at the time. Today, though, something is changing. Today you can get a computer for less than the price of a curling iron. And there's no need to like build all the software yourself. There's free alternatives like Linux and Android. Open source software which is made by hobbyists and amateurs and worldwide. It powers the laptops on the International Space Station. But despite the fact that our tools are opening up, the stories that explain those tools are still way too complicated. Mm-hmm. They're way too mystical. They emanate from Silicon Valley down, and the community in the Valley, for all its genius, is not always great at talking in a mainstream voice, a voice that anyone can understand. And so I think it's partially techno-utopianism. We think that we have to become like the Silicon Valley set in order to survive in the future, which is the fear-based message. What we think at Kano is that computing is just another part of being human. Computers operate on a set of ideas that are logic-based, that are based on meaning and value and structure, ideas that are older than the existence of integrated circuits, ideas that you can make work with levers and gears or water flowing through tubes if you wish. The first computer programmer didn't have a real computer to work on. Her name was Lady Ada Lovelace. She was the daughter of the poet Lord Byron. She was writing programs for a theoretical computer, basically a mental machine, they called it. And she called programming the poetical science. She thought it was a scientific form of poetry. And, that was the original conception of computing, a way of taking the best parts of being human and kind of mechanizing them, so that we as human beings could go up to higher places, do more, understand more, express ourselves more. I think today the rhetoric is often, well, technology is eating the world, software is eating the world, so humans, you better fall in line. It's a bit like the Matrix. But our view is different. We're trying to humanize, we're trying to simplify.
And when you say that, you always have a really interesting approach to education. Can we talk about that for a few minutes?
Yeah, I mean, there's a big sea change underway in the classroom in general. I think the model for classroom interaction today is primarily set by like the 19th century church. It's like kids.
2015, people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, it's really old school. It's like kids they sit in pews, teacher stands in front, delivers a lecture. The kids kind of take notes, and then there's going to be a test later. The real way we learn, just as biologically, the way greater apes learn is much more active, much more participatory. Like, does this work? Does this fit together? Take it apart, make something new, present it, see what the reaction is. The way we've structured our education system is much more like check these boxes, memorize these facts.
Tests.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and look, there's always going to be room in the technical professions. If you want to be a doctor, or you want to be a biophysicist, a biochemist, or an astrophysicist, you're going to have to memorize lots of things. You're going to have to look at what came before and understand it. But at an early age, before you know what you want to be, you've really got to figure out what you like to do, right? And in the classroom, we need to start focusing on kids doing things, creating things, presenting things. And at least for us, we think that the Kano Computer Kit is not just about learning to code. It's about building a computer and then building projects and stories on top of it that can relate to any aspect of the curriculum. So you can make music, you can use computational thinking to build a pyramid and understand why the ancient Egyptians had so much trouble with it and learn some history. So, the classroom is being flipped. It's becoming project focused. And, as a computing platform, our focus is always to demystify through creative play. And creative play, by the way, is one of the best ways to get any person of any age to learn something deeply, to learn it emotionally and to feel it rather than just sort of know that they have to memorize it.
And I think that lends to a quote that you had shared a while back, citing someone saying that the creative adult is the child who survived.
Yeah.
And if we continue with that 19th century ideology in school, you're killing off the creativity so young.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, look, one thing we think about a lot, and any entrepreneurs or business people watching this probably do as well. It's like our audience. primarily the people buying the kit today, we crowdfunded, we raised $1.5 million from 86 countries. We've now got 60,000 kits in the wild. Primarily the people buying are parents and teachers, and they're buying for kids. Of course, though, there's like a 10 to 15% part of our demographic, which is adults, because they're just curious.
I
Because
did see that.
yeah, when it comes to computers, they're still kids, like most of us, right? 99% of us, if asked, what's going on inside a computer's brain, how do computers work, our answers will be the same as a 9-year-old's. Maybe we'll be more nervous about it because we're adults, but I think for us, there's this anecdote I like to talk about with Levi's jeans, right? Levi's, they say that the target customer for Levi's jeans is a 17-year-old. Now, the average age of a Levi's customer is much older. It's like 30. But the reason they say the target customer is a 17-year-old is whether you're 12 or 40, when you put on a pair of Levi's, you feel like you're 17. It's like it takes you back into that space.
I like it.
So that's how we feel about Kano. We want to recapture that anarchic, playful spirit of the 9-year-old, but we don't limit ourselves to kids. We think it's a great audience for us because these guys are the artists, the inventors of the future. Yeah, exactly. But we think it's more important to capture that spirit than to narrow to a segment.
I love it. And with that in mind, Alex, take me ahead. Paint your big picture vision.
I think it's always hard to know, in this time of history where things are changing faster than they ever have, exactly, where you'll be 5 years, maybe even 3 years from now. But I think the principles will be the same. We want to turn technology into a force for creation, first for young people, and then for anyone, anywhere. Right now, technology is primarily a force for consumption, a great force for consumption. It allows us to digest media, communicate with one another. But Kano, as a brand and as a product, we're about unleashing creativity. We take the best of low-cost maker tech and we simplify it. We demystify it through books and a beautiful on-screen experience as well. We're almost like a record label for low-cost hardware. We take it and we bring it to the mainstream. We make the makers into stars. And so, a year from now, would we do kits that let you build a camera, build a light show, build a microphone, build sensors? Yeah, of course. Or 2 years from now, build a 3D printer, build a virtual reality machine. Yeah, of course, that's what we would do. Our goal is to break technology down and let young people and the curious build it from the inside out. And if we can do that, I think we'll be successful because there are millions and millions and soon billions of people around the world with this strong, strong hunger to not just take the external world for granted, but to remix it and shape it.
If that's the goal, time to end it. I need you to get to work. No more weekends. I want to be able to do a mic.
Yeah.
Well, before we go, Alex, we always focus on 3 questions that aren't directly related to the business and just about you.
Sure.
As you focus on this journey, what's been unexpected to you? What surprised you?
Well, when I started this, and probably still, I was like completely unqualified. I was a reporter. I was a journalist for Newsweek, and I never thought I would be, building a business. I think what surprised me the most is I think in the early days, you feel like you want to do it all yourself, and you think, oh, it's got to be this way, it's got to be that way, and what you realize, quickly in a matter of months is, you can only do so much, and the strength of the business, the success of the product is entirely based on bringing people around you who are smarter, more focused, more creative than you are. And so, fortunately, I was hooked up with my co-founder, Jonathan, incredible guy who, knew the back to fronts on manufacturing. We met early on in the company's lifetime. A guy named Alejandro from the PlayStation 4 team brought him on board. He created our operating system, which is this beautiful kind of almost game world for creative coding. Came from PS4, so you'd expect that. Yeah, that's been a huge surprise, I think, to see how much of a sort of living, breathing, but kind of singularly focused organism can arise from many different types of people. We're 44 people now. We represent 20 different nationalities. We work across 3 time zones, and somehow it works, even though the vision is so big. And I was surprised as well by by the reaction to the first product. You know, we thought we would raise $100,000 on Kickstarter. We ended up raising 15 times that amount, and it was a really great surprise because it made me think like, okay, you know,
Here we
this
go.
isn't just us. Yeah, this is something that is inevitable. You know, it is going to become as simple and fun to create technology as it is to consume it, and we have one of the best chances we could possibly hope for to make it happen and to drive it.
What are you most proud of?
I think again, I'd have to say that the group of people who we've managed to attract to the team. I mean, we've gotten just the most wonderful people who are, you know, for every IQ point they have, you know, they have a funny story or like, you know, a way of kind of, you know, turning things into optimism when things look dark, or finding a magical moment in something that seems complex. And you know, it's from every part of the team is filled with people who are so intelligent, so focused, and some of them, you know, are also doing this for the first time, like myself, and it's surprising and brilliant to and makes me very proud to see younger people, you know, rise up and do things the world hasn't seen before.
All right, last one. What's one question that you've always wanted to be asked, but nobody has ever asked you?
Oh wow!
Personal, professional, athletic achievement from when you were 7.
Wow. I don't know. Maybe that no one has ever asked me. I guess people don't always ask me about what goes wrong. You know, because you know, partially, yeah, like what's gone wrong. People don't always ask me that.
What has gone wrong? Is that something that you want to talk about, or are you happy that they don't ask?
No, I'm happy. Yeah, I'd be happy to answer it because things go wrong every day. That's the funny part. Is like when you're involved in something like this, you you have these incredible moments when something ships, or you know a kid posts an incredible video review, or you know you raise a new round or a new bit of product magic the team comes up with. Like today, we were just playing with this, you know, grid of LEDs that, you know, the team has managed to control from any laptop, so any device, which is pretty magical because it's like, hey, I can suddenly cast a spell on you across the room with this. Like but what's interesting is every day something goes wrong. Like every day, like you're putting
Did
out
something go
fires.
wrong today?
Today,
It's 4:39, so I mean, like, you never know.
yeah. What went wrong today?
Oh no, that's not a good way to approach.
No, nothing dramatic.
Okay.
I did accidentally drink some coffee after I had a dental thing operation, so I
Okay,
wasn't.
that's not a bad one.
Yeah, it's not a business thing. No, but what goes wrong? You miss targets. You make a mistake on a projection. You know, sometimes you come forward with a point in a meeting or in a presentation, and you're like, oh shoot, that was the wrong point. I should have said it differently. And you know, you go home, you beat yourself up, and then you think, okay, well, you know, next day we got another shot at it, and you know, we are going to be successful. So that will just be a speed bump.
Well, one more speed bump that we have to address. I
Mm.
think that Micah should be CEO. He inspired this.
I mean, he is a founder, and he does have shares, and he is the harshest product critic of all. He's a bit bored with his first computer kit, I have to be honest. So we need to make more stuff for him.
Get a little more challenging. You better be careful. He might come
Yeah,
compete for your job.
yeah, exactly. I mean, he's way smarter than I am, by the way. He made the funniest joke the other night. It won't be a joke that American audiences get because it's about English football.
Mhm.
But he basically he well, I'll try and explain it. So like, you know, I asked him who my favorite Arsenal. He supports Arsenal. I support a team called West Ham.
Mhm.
So very sort of English and parochial. But I asked him who's my favorite Arsenal player, and he's, you know, he's 9 now, and he said, oh, it's Carl Jenkinson, because he knew that West Ham has his player Carl Jenkinson on loan, which is a very
Hmm.
obscure thing to know. Anyway, and an obscure thing for me to tell you in an interview. But there you go. He's a very brainy young man, and he's gonna just either build or destroy the world. Who knows?
You never know.
Yeah.
Well, Alex, it's been a pleasure to be with you today. Before we go, can you explain to everyone how they can get involved with Kano, get exposed to your kits, and hopefully start ordering?
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, if you liked what you heard, if you want to help build a creative computing movement, come to kano.me, Kano.me. You don't have to buy a kit to get involved, by the way, although we hope you do. It's a $99 purchase, build your own computer.
And
Great
holiday
Christmas present.
specials right now.
Exactly, yeah. You can do it, but if you don't want to buy the computer kit, a lot of our projects are online for free. You can make art with code, make beautiful, castles, fortresses, characters and heroes, gradients, fractals with code. If you go to art.kano.me, you can also make your own version of the classic game Pong. Go to pong.kano.me and you can see what the world is creating on world.kano.me. So, join us and check us out on social as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenna.